Welcome back to Survived by Loss, a podcast providing a voice in the dark where we hear stories about erasing the gray and ending cycles. I'm Haley and I will be your host. If you made it through the trailer, you will know from now on this podcast will be one giant trigger warning. Before we dive into today's episode, I would like to say the following content may contain sensitive topics or discussions that could potentially evoke strong emotional responses or discomfort. I encourage you to prioritize your mental health and proceed with caution. If you find yourself feeling distressed at any time, please remember that it's okay to pause or stop listening. Your well being is incredibly important to me. Remember, you're not alone and support is available. We will talk about loss and every single kind. You will hear my personal stories as well as people that I know and love, and hopefully one day this will inspire you to talk about something that you have lost with all of us. My goal is for this to be a safe space to share, a place to let go, to find people to add to your list so you know you aren't alone in your time of healing. Today is kind of a really cool episode, and I'm so excited that you're here to listen. I do want to say I am so sorry in advance. I didn't realize how quiet my audio was for me specifically. With my mom, Angela, as a guest today, her audio sounds great. And this is all a learning experience. So thanks for dealing with this. It's a journey that we are on, let me tell you. I'm so excited for today. And I probably will say excited so many times because I've always dreamed of having a place where I could go and listen or talk to people who have been through some stuff in their life that has caused them to be who they are today, if that makes sense. Yes, I may or may not write some things or read from what I've written. However, it is very much real and my truth in things that have happened in my life. So it will be very neat to have my mom here with me because she has just been the most incredible support ever in life. And I have had the pleasure of knowing her for my entire life and being raised by the most incredible human ever. To be able to share stories and emotions and feelings and just be present together in a place where it's not, oh, well, I feel this way, I feel that way. It really just gets to be like her telling her story. I can't wait for more. With that being said, I would like to introduce my mom, Angela. I could probably write 4 episodes on how amazing this woman is and all of the things that she's been through and just survived through. I am so honored to have her. And if you guys like me, I'm telling you, you are going to love her. So, sweet baby angel Angela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, hi. I am Haley's mom. Actually, I am Angie. I'm just an average human trying to do good in the world who's actually suffered some loss, partially why I'm here tonight talking. I'm just going to share a little bit of my story that is intertwined with Haley, and it's about loss. And I've actually, as most humans, of course, suffer loss throughout their lives. And for me, the loss of a child, and more recently, the loss of my spouse. Unfortunately, my spouse committed suicide, and it's very hard for me to even say that my son committed suicide. Technically, he aspirated while intoxicated, and for me, even though that's denial, it's a lot easier to swallow at the end of each moment. So today, I'm just going to share a little bit of my journey and how I got to be in the spot that I am.
I love that. I love all of your information and you telling us about some loss that you had. It is so strange that anything you talk about, I know and can relate to. That is something that is going to be super interesting with us talking together for sure.
Yes, and I think the emotions are probably a little more raw because they are definitely connected, which will make this a very interesting topic, subject, just episode, if you will.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It is going to be quite interesting because I feel like when you and I talk about things, we bounce feelings and ideas and emotions off of each other. And sometimes it can get a little crazy. But I feel like when we're done, it always feels kind of nice that we've got some stuff out and you have somebody that can kind of relate to how you're feeling, even though the loss is not the same. But we understand a little bit, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. I think it's helpful, really, when talking to anyone about loss. And I think the most important thing that I've learned with talking with you is when you're talking to someone who's experienced loss, whether it's last week or 15 years ago, whatever the case may be, is it's always good to be aware of where that person is that you're speaking with about a topic. And if you know them a little bit, it helps because you can tell by body language and just maybe social cues is if they're comfortable. Often something like this is a bonus because I think it's a little easier just to talk and there's not so much worry or being guarded. Like I'm guarded a lot, and my family has told me I had a wall up all this time. And even though my son Jason, your brother, passed in two, sometimes it feels like 5 seconds ago, and sometimes it feels like 500 years ago, even though that's not even possible. But again, what I was getting at is that I think with something like this, it's nice to be able to listen to someone who has a story or more so a journey. And I always try to learn things from other people who have had experiences. So I think this podcast idea is wonderful because people are valuable, their information is valuable, and this is an awesome platform to be able to discuss the hard stuff. And maybe somebody wants to reach out and they're afraid to, but they can listen to something or someone in this case, or just some people in this case, that have had some similar experiences and maybe get some nuggets to help them through their next moment.
I 100% agree. And it is interesting. I feel like with Jay, it's been how many years now?
Too many, and I try not to think about it.
15? 15, 16? I can't remember. It's
Honestly,
it's been a long time.
I try not to think about the years, and actually, I did before. I would always, it's been 5 years, it's been 8 years, it's been whatever. But then to throw your dad's suicide on top of that, that makes it um, a little different. So I'm not so focused on how many years it's been since Jay. Now I'm doing that with your dad. But that doesn't mean one is, really, one is not more important than the other. It's just, I think, because one is more fresh than the other one is not at the
Yeah.
forefront of every thought. Now I have two thoughts at any given time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like with Jay in the very beginning, I tried to celebrate his birthday and his death date
Yes.
often because I felt like I was missing out a little bit, I think. And I feel like with dad, it's completely different. Like, I don't feel like I have to celebrate like I did Jay. And I feel like part of it is just because maybe Jason was younger
Yeah.
and it
Different.
was different. And I was younger and I was around his friends. But with dad, for some reason, I'm not necessarily counting like I was with Jay. I've noticed, but that's just me.
Yeah. I think So, just some quick background here. Obviously, you know, but not everyone does. Your dad and I met in high school. I was 15. He was 16. Thought he was adorable. My friend thought he was super cute and wanted me to check him out. And so it worked out. We ended up getting together, and then we eventually got married and had Jason, and then you, of course, and then here we are. So there's nothing like having a child and then another one, and you're married, and you think, oh gosh, this life is great. Obviously, life is hard. Life is so hard. People don't talk about that either. But with Jason and losing him, especially about around Christmas, 2 weeks prior, that was pretty much soul crushing to me. With that loss, it was very different because for the first 2 years, I could not listen to music. I could not have loud noises. I had to be in smaller crowds. I wasn't functioning well at all.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the times, it was about 2008 when the economy tanked and I was able to stay home for a while, which worked out great because I needed to spend time with you, and I turned into a little bit of a helicopter mom, did the best I could, pushed you out of the nest. Fast forward, okay, started recovering, started listening to music and going out in crowds and, getting my life back on track. No problem. Okay, we got this. Still sad, of course. Christmas is still not my favorite. I'm working on it. Then to have some trials and then get the call that my husband of 32 years, 31 years, see, that's even a blur. It's funny that I say that because I used to be pretty sharp, but my body was affected a lot more than I thought it would be through these losses. I think that's the hardest part is my body and my brain are disconnected at times. Even in a moment, I could be in a room full of people and I hear nothing or I hear a lot. It's very wild to have two losses, many years apart and plenty in between, but these are so close to home, obviously, like literally. It's hard to compare the two because I have a son, I have a husband, both I love dearly. Jason was part of my body. Your dad, had my heart and soul as well as your brother. So it's been a very different journey for both of these. At times, it just feels like I'm not the same person, which how can you be? So at this point, I've really been doing a lot of soul searching and counseling and therapy and all different sorts of treatments. I've tried so many things. It's interesting, from sound bowl therapy to meditation, if my mind will actually be quiet for any length of time, to putting my feet in the dirt, all types of things, and different types of therapy and counselors. And so today, I'm sleeping through the night. I'm listening to music all day long. I'm more connected, even though I'm still, suffering some symptoms, but I'm working on it. I think that's all we can do in the process.
Sometimes the small things that you do are the wins that matter. And being able to listen to music again is huge because we were, the four of us, such a music family. And then even
Yeah.
when Jay passed, I mean, you and dad would sing and play guitar, and it would just be exactly what we needed it to be. And I would sneak videos, and you would sneak videos, and it would just be perfect. So losing music would be hard, especially for how musically inclined everybody was.
Yeah, I think that was really hard in the beginning. And, that's the one thing that Jason and I really could connect on. Like, we both like loud. We liked a lot of bass. We liked all the stuff. I mean, he got into the screamo and I could never relate to that, but that's okay. But what I learned was that I was suffering pretty good for a period of time. And I really just wanted to be left alone, but I was afraid of what the people around me would say or do or anything. So I really needed a positive, productive escape. So I started getting together with a couple of my friends and we would make little greeting cards and we focused on Halloween because that's my love. And we started doing things like that. And that really kind of started bringing the creativity out. And then I painted a picture for my sister, a bumblebee. It was awesome. In acrylic, it looked fuzzy and she was beside herself. And your dad really was sad that I didn't give him that painting. But I'm like, I'm painting it for my sister for her birthday. So anyway, after I saw the bee and they all had a fit about it, I thought, I could maybe paint. Okay, so maybe I need to paint and then people will leave me alone and I'll have a productive escape. But I didn't realize of how much joy I was going to end up getting out of painting. It turned into having classes and people over and showing them how to use a new medium that hardly anybody heard of. And even though there was a great loss, there's been such great and huge, wonderful things that have come from it, and sharing my story in between. And there's really been a lot of good. I mean, obviously I can talk about the sad, poor me things for hours, but for me with Jason specifically, so much good came from his passing. For example, at the funeral, there was a gentleman who I had worked with, and he had a stepson and a son, and he could not stand his stepson at all. Like the worst kind of stepfather avoidance you could ever hope for. Well, after Jason's service, he sent me an email and he said, I just have to tell you that service was so beautiful for your son and so amazing. And there was so much love in that room that I went home and hugged my stepson and told him I loved him. Try not to get emotional. On those dark days, that's a moment that pulls me through. And honestly, if I take a moment to even reflect and force myself to reflect, there's a lot of good moments that came from his passing. Kids got off drugs. It brought certain family members closer. It brought new relationships, like a domino effect from the painting to creativity to classes to I have gone to a couple paint classes by myself. I've taken drawing classes at the college here in town. I mean, there's really been so much good that has come from this. You and I are super close. Not everyone is lucky to have that relationship. And then your dad's passing threw me for a loop, and that's a whole nother story for another time. However, I really hope that people know that I hate that I shouldn't say hate. I really dislike when people say, "You're so strong." Well, I don't want to be strong. I didn't sign up to be strong. It makes me a little mad sometimes, honestly, that I have to be strong, but secretly, kind of happy that I'm able to be strong. I'm appreciative that I'm able to be strong. Like you, I think you are super strong. You've endured so much, and it's been a blessing to watch you grow and thrive and find yourself and struggle and keep fighting and clawing your way up to goodness. It's been amazing that we've been able to do that together, but on our own path. When Jason passed, our paths were you were so young that I just had to focus on getting you to be a productive member of society. But now, with the most recent one in the last couple of years, you've come out of this cocoon of your little butterfly cocoon and you're just flying, but more importantly, like a phoenix. It's just incredible to watch.
Today is not about me. Oh my gosh, this is about you.
Well, it's hard for me to let my wall down, so it makes it easier to kind of volley back and forth with some information because I think that we both have valuable information to share. And I think what we've been through will definitely help people. So I want to make sure that, if my wall feels like it's starting to go up a tiny bit, that I go, but Haley, you're incredible. Okay, now let's get back to the topic.
So basically, What you're telling everybody is as soon as I start complimenting Haley, that's how you know I'm getting emotional and I need a second to pull it back together. So I'm just going to tell you that I love my kid, and not in a way that's like I have to love my kid because she's my kid, but like I really
Exactly.
love my kid, but also partly because, when you have a kid and they like breathe weird and it's so cool and you're like, oh my gosh, my kid's so smart. That's how I feel.
And don't act like you know me.
I think it's perfect. I mean, exactly what you're doing is a big reason why you're able to get through a lot of stuff too. Is you work through it. You need a break. That's okay. You have to do what you have to do to cope, and then you get back into it. And that
Yeah,
right there is something that's really admirable as well. You did mention a lot. I've been
sorry.
trying to like keep up topics that we can kind of touch on because we really have so much. And you're not kidding. Our story, both together and separately, have helped a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I am right there with you on the strength thing. When people are like, oh my gosh, you're so strong, I really just want to like flip them off and be like, shut up. Like, don't see that. That to me, that's not a compliment. And then I have to think about it for a second and look at it outside of my emotional perspective based on what I'm feeling that day and be appreciative that I can be strong, like you said. Because at the end of the day, if I wasn't strong and had to go through what I've gone through, I don't know where I would be today. So
Yeah,
it's like
it's a
a
lot.
blessing and a curse, I guess. You're strong because you had to endure some awful things and you endured some awful things and now you have a badge of strength, so
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting and touchy topic for me. If you tell me I'm strong, I will say thank you, because usually when somebody's like, hey, you're strong, I needed the reminder that like I've been through some tough stuff and I can still get through it. So to me, it's nice, I guess. I'll take it for now.
I start channeling my mom and I just want to flick somebody in their nose. That's what she would say. I'm going to flick them in their nose.
That's perfect. I wanted to go back to holidays. One thing that has been really tough for me specifically are holidays. Obviously, a lot of stuff I feel like that has happened around holidays for us. And I guess most of it was Jay. Growing up with dad being a fireman, obviously holidays weren't always about the day. It was about when we could have time together, when he wasn't working, coming up with fun ways to make the holiday, even though it it wasn't always like Christmas. Could be a week before, could be 2 days after. It really just depended on his schedule. And then obviously with Jason passing in that really altered Christmas for me specifically. So how do you feel that it has altered it for you? Because I know you mentioned that Christmas is still hard, and it is. It freaking sucks sometimes. But I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
As a family, we've always had so much fun. It didn't have to be a holiday. We could go to the sand dunes, we could go to the lake, we could go to the mountains, we could go out to the dry lake bed, we could do any of those awesome fun things. We could have rock band parties, we could have haunted houses. I mean, we did a lot for the holiday stuff. Specifically for Christmas, and the reason it's so hard for me is that your dad was at work. It was the first time that we had an artificial Christmas tree. I'm like, we'll try it. It's fine. Because we've always grown up with live trees and, well, not live really because we cut them down, but I wanted some of that real, and that made it nostalgic for me for Christmas. But that day, you and I had spent the good part of the evening rearranging furniture and moving things because the tree was super skinny and it was so particular, whatever. And then I finally got comfortable with the fact that, okay, it's good. Your dad was at work. You and I were here. We were kicking butt, gonna make it good. And then we went to sleep, knowing that we just decorated for Christmas for all of us. That's when I was woken up by a phone call from your dad and asked me if you were home. I said, yes. He said, well, are you sure? I said, yes. And he goes, go check on her. I said, she's in her room sleeping. He goes, go check on her. I said, okay. I go in there, I'm like, yep, she's in bed, everything's fine. He's like, all right, well, there's a problem. Have you talked to Jason? I said, no, I haven't, not since the 12th, because I went by his work and squeezed him. And anyway, so I said, no, I haven't. And he goes, have you heard from my mom? I said, no, I haven't, because I didn't really talk with his mom much. He said, well, we have a problem because the coroner called and my captain woke me up and wanted me to talk to them. And they said that I was busy, so I had a few minutes to collect myself and get myself together. And there's definitely a problem, and I'm coming home. I said, okay. So he gets on his motorcycle and hauls ass, excuse my language, and gets home. And he said, I'm pretty confident they're coming here to tell us that Jason's gone. And I said, okay, talk about shock. Freeze, fawning, freezing. I don't know what any of those terms are that would be appropriate. So, sure enough, your dad, of course, comes home. We do that. And then next thing you know, the coroner comes and you're up by then. And you and I had already chatted on some details. And the coroner said, yes, he's gone. He was at his, living at his friend's house. So that's when all of that shutdown started. So you were struggling, your dad was struggling. I had to remove myself briefly, so I went out back, and you came in out back because we have our little shop out there, and that was always my safe place to go out back to our shop where there's a different bathroom where it's completely separate for a second, my little tiny safe place. And you came out there and said, I need you to come inside because I can't handle him. And I said, okay. And I knew. And sometimes as a mom or a woman, I don't know, or as a parent or as a friend, I don't know what my relationship was in that moment, but I knew I better suck it up and take care of it because our family was about to fall. I came in, I could hardly cry. I just functioned. From that second I stepped foot in the door, and your dad was on the floor crying, I just went into business mode. Let's go. Okay, I got this. No problem. I got this. It's going to be fine. Everything's fine. I got this. I'll take it on for each of you. The good part is I handled it mostly. I mean, there's a lot of down days, I know, and I apologize for that. Mother's Day turned into a hard holiday. It all turned into hard. The Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy feelings, all of those came rushing back, right? So the good part is I handled it mostly. The bad part is I just shut off. I shut everything off because here I was, feeling like a victim for a large portion of the time of why me, why me, why me, when in reality, it wasn't about me at all. And, my son, and he was gone. And if you are okay to be religious for a brief moment, if in the spiritual world can give up your only son, then I had to give up my only son for the good of who knows what was going to come. So that leads me to the next moment that I try to hang on to in those moments that I still struggle on occasion. Not as much. It doesn't ever get easier or better. It just becomes a little more tolerable. But those are definitely two of my go-tos of just being strong and shifting my thought patterns of, hey, this gentleman told his stepson he loved him. I'm not the only one that had to give up my only son. So now what that means to fast forward with all the other things that I've done back to the holiday things, I'm sorry, it's a very long explanation, is that the holidays are a little better. And honestly, I think the best holiday I've had, best Christmas I've had so far since Jason passed, and you may or may not agree, is when we did something completely different after your dad passed, and we put Leo in the car, and you and I went and got a little hotel room for a couple days, and we went to whatever that awesome grocery store is that I don't have access to here, and we got great food, and we hung out, and you worked at night, and that honestly was probably the best Christmas I've had since two.
That was a really really actually great one. That's when I was working for the tech company, which that is a nut story how I ended up there as
Yeah.
well. I'm going to backtrack just a tiny bit. I don't know that we've ever talked about the night that we found out that Jason passed, because
No, we haven't.
I'm sitting here listening to this going, I had no idea that dad knew before coming home. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that he called you. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that he got a call from the coroners. Had no idea on
He
any of
didn't.
that.
He did not talk to them. His captain did.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I had no idea that that phone call was even made to whoever it was made to. You know what I mean? My memory is you turning on the hall light, walking into my room and saying, "Hey, have you heard from Jason? I think something's wrong." And I was dead asleep, had been asleep for a couple hours. And I just remember waking up panicking. And I just started making calls. And I
Yeah.
called one person because that's who he was living with. I
Yes.
called their little sister and I said, "Hey, have you heard from my brother today? Is he okay? Is he home?" And the answer I got to each question was, "Yes, he's okay. Yes, he's home. Yes, I've talked to him," which we've come to find out was not true, obviously. However,
Yes.
she couldn't tell me. And to be fair, we're both 14.
Exactly. That's why
Not
she
something
couldn't.
we should even be dealing with, anyways. But also, from what I'm doing now, I can understand that. But back then, up until 10 months ago when I started my job, I kind of held that for a while. But I even then understood she couldn't tell me.
Yeah. She couldn't.
So
And it.
I had no idea about this, that dad had any sort of insight before.
Yeah. That's why I woke you up because he needed to start narrowing down which of the three of you it was. You, Jason, or his mom.
Which makes sense. And with that, I mean, later, obviously, that I planned on getting into more detail, like my outlook on what happened and how it happened and all of that. And I'm just going to talk about what I remember happening then. But it's so interesting that you saying that totally caught me off guard. I'm like, I just had no idea. I
Sorry.
had no idea.
It's been a tough topic to cover all these years for so many reasons. You know, your dad's job made certain things difficult to cover because he was a fireman and he saw a lot and dealt with a lot, and he struggled at work at times. And anyway, it's a tough topic because that night when I came back in the house, sorry, I built the biggest wall in the universe to make sure I kept you guys and myself protected the best I could from any unnecessary anything. I don't even know what it could be, emotional, just, being distraught in any form or just anything, that was less than tolerable. So since then, and more recently than not, I just realized that I really put this, unbelievably massive wall up around me. But I'm okay with it because being behind that wall, I didn't have to, me, I'm such a fixer. That's kind of my nickname at times. But I had to protect myself so I could take care of you guys. So if I didn't have to worry about anybody else around me, what they were thinking or whatever my hangups were, I could just focus on you guys.
That night is honestly kind of crazy. I feel like I remember it so vividly. And you bringing up when I came out back, that was hard for me to do. It really was. I tried so hard. I just remember the coroners left because those two guys, they left. You immediately went out back. And I was just sitting on the couch in shorts and a tank top. I on the burgundy couch with a green curtains behind me.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember looking towards the back door, dad still in his full gear. Like, I swear he still even had his gloves on. And he was just kneeling and like almost in the fetal position, but sitting up and holding the back of my knees, just losing it.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I had never seen dad get emotional like that ever. Not once in my entire life have I, up until then, even really had seen him cry ever. So for me, not only was I 14 and trying to figure out what my emotions were, that literally the person that I worshiped, because we all know I worship Jason. I just thought he was the coolest person ever in life and could do no wrong. And he was just neat and charismatic, and I loved him to death.
You're very much the
No,
same, by the way.
thank you. Deflection.
It's easier.
Not only did I lose my best friend and flash back to texting him a couple days before, just saying, hey, we love you. Like, you're forgetting and you're reaching out and you're telling me that we don't love you, but we love you more than you could know. And then having that moment when I've never seen my dad cry, he could probably slice a limb off at that point, and I probably still would have never seen him cry. Breaking down, holding me for comfort. I think a lot of it was I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable. I was shell shocked about losing Jay. I was 14, so I was young. And I'd never really had a big loss like that before, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember coming outside and talking to you. I remember opening the back door with my feet cold on the cool deck, walking into the back house, looking at you. You're looking in the mirror, crying. And I said, I need you to come in because I cannot do this. And I couldn't. I
I was
could
proud of
not.
you for that. And I feel bad that I had to leave you. I literally had to figure out it's like being dropped in some movie, some creepy movie, being dropped in the middle of 500,000 zombies, because that's probably the thoughts that I had, you know, swirling around my head at that moment of how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to handle this? Like, what is my plan? How am I going to do this? And the second you walked in and said, I need you, come in here, I can't. And I'm like, oh, I'm on it. No problem. Let's go. I feel bad I left you. I I don't know. I mean, I didn't leave the house. I just had to
Right.
collect my thoughts. So sorry for that.
Well, and first of all, new rule, everybody listening. We're not allowed to
Listen
say
up.
sorry. We're not allowed to say sorry on this podcast, Kay. None of that, because
I like that.
everything happened how it was supposed to happen. I
True.
think me being 14, take a shot for every time I say 14. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
This could have been a game. Dang it.
Every time I say 14 and every time somebody apologizes, whoo, drinking game on podcast. I'm really surprised that at my age, I could go out there in that moment and articulate how I was feeling. To me, that
I'm
blows
not.
my mind because I almost feel like it wasn't me that did it because
I don't know that it was.
it was so just walk out there, and I opened my mouth and something came out. But I also didn't know what I needed in that moment. I just knew that I could not save dad in that moment. There was no way.
Yeah, that's
And
tough.
third rule, third rule, if anybody, yeah, I'm talking to all you people who said this close to when my brother passed, ever judges anybody for how they grieve, for how they have to
Oh,
cope, for how they have to survive a moment, you got to come through me, okay? I'm going to fight you all because I remember to this day, this still, I could just mention it and I could feel your blood boiling. How
I'm gonna cry because I already know.
somebody totally talked crap because you didn't cry. They don't know what
Yeah,
happened. They don't know that I had to walk out there and cut you off while you were still processing that literally your flesh and blood is no longer here. Your only son,
No.
your first baby, your kid that did gymnastics and did pageants, your crazy, charismatic, fun, handsome, goofy, amazing kid is no longer here. They don't know what happened. They have no
Mm-mm.
idea. And you, it's like Vampire Diaries. You had to, I would have, humanity out the door. Bye. Don't want that shit back. No, thank you. They don't know.
No. And you know that I'm glad you brought that up because I think it just comes down to, well, I guess I need to preface a little, I need to go back a tiny bit further, but so 2008, Jason, but your dad and I were at the sand dunes and his brother died at the sand dunes. So I was just, and that's a whole nother thing, I was just coming off of that loss. Like, just such a minuscule time when it comes to healing. Because prior to that, I had only thankfully suffered one loss that really truly affected me, which is my dad's mom, my grandmother, who loved me more than anyone that I can, obviously putting you aside, anyone I can think of, right? I didn't think I could do any wrong with her or ever in her eyes. So when she passed, that was a pretty big blow. But then in 2000, I suffered that. We all suffered that. And I was at the sand dunes as well. So it was a whole thing. And then here comes the passing of Jason. I had already been exposed and raw from that loss to jump into exactly that. My firstborn, only son, same flesh, with my high school sweetheart who I was so excited about this life together. We had so much fun and we had, all these gatherings and adventures and all of this together. And then, okay, well, I'm not allowed to grieve right now because my family needs me more than I can grieve right now.
Well, and
I will have to put that aside.
let me also throw this in, ladies and gentlemen, specifically people who talk crap to my mother. Not only did we
You're
lose
so
Mark,
protective.
this is all the things I wish I would have said forever ago, but I was 14. Take a shot. Not only did we lose Mark in 2000, we lost Samson November, a month before
Yeah, our
Jason.
dog,
And
by the way, our dog.
Samson was our family dog. This dog, he was another sibling, okay? My mom called him Salmon one time. She said, "Hey, Salmon." And she
Because we were
goes,
watching a
"Did
cooking show.
I said, "Oh, oh, salmon." Okay, salmon it is. But not only that, too, Jason's friends, and I don't know who said this to you, and I don't want to know because I might beat them up. But
Who it
Jason's
was, hey?
friends heard Jason's story, right? So not only did Mark pass into that, Jason moved out July of 2000. He was told to go. However, that was because of some choices he made. It wasn't
Yes.
safe. He needed to get his shizzle together. You told him to go.
Here's the deal. I said you need to either be in school or you need to have a driver's license and a job. Those are three very doable things. Well, he chose to not do those things and dabble in a little extracurricular activities that when your dad and Jason was only, I don't know, a few months old. We lived in an apartment, not such a bad area of town, but we lived in an apartment, thankfully upstairs, and we would watch this kid deal drugs out of his bedroom window. Well, one night we were sleeping and this kid gets shot. So, first, that's why your dad went into fire because he wanted to help people like that. And then, second, it really stuck with me because the kid was hurt. He lived, but he was hurt. And to find out that my kid is probably dabbling in some dealings of that, I was scared for all of us. So I said, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And he was like, eh. So he had to go because I had to keep us safe, all of us safe.
Yeah.
And
And
really, he
not,
was getting it together. I mean,
yes.
he got a job. He was getting ready to get his license. He was doing what he needed to do. And I was excited at the fact that the thought of him coming back. Your dad was in the process of redoing his room, and we just didn't get there. We didn't get that chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to bring that up too. You guys were getting ready. And that's one of the things that I told him too when I was texting him. I said, "Hey, mom and dad are working on getting your room together so you can come back. Like, I don't know what is making you think that our family doesn't love you, but we do, and we're ready. Like, we want you to back. Like, come play rock band. Like, let's be a unit like we were before, you know?"
Yeah,
And I think
I think,
you read the text, didn't you? Didn't you guys get to see them? I think you
I
brought
don't
them up.
know. I don't recall right this second.
Yeah.
I feel like I might be shutting down. It's funny. This is tough. It's a tough topic.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Ins- insert compliment. Insert compliment. Thank you for that
You is
reminder.
smart. You is
You have beautiful eyes.
kind. You is important.
You are incredible. You're making a difference for so many people. That was
you're
that's tough to recall. It's
you're
like super hard.
you're allowed to go south. Did you apologize?
Probably.
Stop it. Not allowed.
I
Strike
didn't
number
mean
2.
to.
3 strikes and you're out.
Okay, bye. Love you.
Okay,
Gotta
too
go.
much. I have to go. I'm going to go to my room now. No, and we
Whew,
knew we knew once we started getting into things that it might get a little heavy.
you're right.
Yeah, that whole situation was tough, and I could go on 500 tangents. I mean, my biggest thing, my equivalent of people being upset with you for not crying was me being blamed for Jay's death.
Oh, that's baloney.
That
All
for
of that's
me
baloney.
was the hardest. And you know what? When before dad passed, him and I worked through a lot. We really did. I was able to talk to him about a lot of things and not feel like I needed to hold back or that I couldn't or I needed to be afraid of like any sort of repercussion. But that is one thing I think about often, not being able to call
You,
him out on.
you didn't get to do that?
Not that one
Damn
thing.
it. Darn it.
Most other things, yes, 100%. I got very
That was
lucky.
a lot. You got through a lot,
But
which
that's
was a
one thing I
beautiful
want to
thing. And I'm sorry you didn't get
just
through that.
have a little
And
bird
what
come
I've
by.
learned since your dad's passing, and then being able to reflect on the past and more, losing a job or losing, anything that disrupts our lives in some sort of fashion, is that we all grieve differently. And some people are quick to blame and point out the faults and, the not so pretty side, because typically, from what I have seen, I'm not a professional by any means, is that they are suffering and they don't know how to process, because I was one of they for a long time. I just fit right in because I didn't know. Well, guess what? You have some life experiences and things become very clear if you're willing to be open and aware. So I definitely extend a lot more people grace while I'm, struggling to give myself that same courtesy. But that is something I'm working on. So that's good.
I feel like you and I are a little bit opposite in that way. I give people a lot of chances, but also I've been through so much and I'm not a jerk. So when people are and our lives are different, I'm not saying that they've been through stuff that isn't also traumatic and heavy, but I'm like, if I can be a decent human and be positive ish sometimes fake positive, but positive.
Truth.
Aside from you being my
Some
punching bag growing up, I mean, if I could be nice to other
Did you just
people,
say that?
yeah,
Wait, did you just say that to everyone?
I have
I'm
what
proud
do
of
they
you.
say? They say you take it out on the people you love the most, right? And I feel like I had to grow up really quick after Jay. Like really quick.
You did have to grow up pretty quick in different ways, but in other ways, I smothered you. I smothered you so bad. Helicopter, what are you doing? Where are you at? If you don't answer your phone, you're not going to have a phone because I was scared.
And mom and I are very similar in this way. We would go sit somewhere and just sit in our cars and just be, right? Nothing around us. Maybe we got a soda or a snack and we're just sitting there. I would sit at the park. This woman, my sweet, angelic angel of a mother, said, "What are you doing in the Vaughn's parking lot?" And I said, very clearly trying to hype myself up to go in and get groceries. What the hell else would I be doing in a grocery store parking lot, Angela? That is less than 5 feet from our home. That was one time that I was like, we need to get you a hobby.
I
But I
did. Are
was
you
your
so proud?
hobby. Yes. I was your hobby at that point. I mean, what else were you going to do?
I had one birdie pushed out of the nest and it didn't go so well. So I needed to make sure my next birdie was fully capable of flying prior to the shove.
This chicken wasn't going anywhere. Chickens, you can't push a chicken out of a nest. It'll just cluck around.
Yeah, that. Yeah. So I did recover from most of. You've done a lot on your own since then. It's pretty wild. But anyway, yeah, it's been quite the journey to go through a loss and such an unfortunate one because, when we lose someone and we don't get the resolve, it makes it a lot harder. I mean, I tried everything and nothing really was working for Jason to know how much I loved him, how much I wanted him, and I knew he was capable. I knew it. I believed it. I could see it. Like if he was here now, dude, he would make so much money. He would have Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and he would be writing games and coding games, whatever. He would have fractal art. I mean, it would be insane, insane. And it's so unfortunate that it was cut short. However, again, there's been so much good that has come from it. And when I find myself what ifing myself to sleep or, why or any of that, I just go, you know what? It was for a reason. It's bigger than me. And though I'm being selfish because I'm the one suffering and he's not, I have to trust that in the end, it's going to be for something. And I may not ever be aware of it, what that something was. But there's people's lives that have been saved. There's been relationships that were brought closer. And again, has been so much good. I've dabbled in the art. I've created art. I've had some successful art shows. I've had people learning how to create and just be in the moment and forget about what's going on around them. If we're willing to just take a look and dig deep, even if it's hard to dig those days, there's always something that can get you to that next moment. And I hope that other people, if they chose to listen to my just talking in circles at times, will understand that if I can do it, and I mean this, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I don't feel
I
that strong at
mean,
times.
if there's anything that I wish I could tell you and you could wholeheartedly believe, it might be more than one thing. So here we go. I'm not
Okay.
deflecting, I'm just telling. You really are the most incredible mom anybody could ask for. Truly. But not only that, you're an incredible sister, you're an incredible daughter, you're an incredible aunt. You're just amazing. And you know what's even more incredible about you is that even though you have been unappreciated, underappreciated, appreciated but underappreciated, you still continue to give unconditionally. And I think that that's pretty amazing because not many people can do that. Not many people can be their daughter's punching bag, their husband's punching bag. Not literal, guys, just
Definitely not literally.
metaphorically. Metaphorically. Emotionally, you got beat the heck up. You've gone through so much. You've lost so many people. You've had to be the rock, the foundation, the nails, the wood, the tile, the decorations, the hours and hours being worked to afford things. Like you are all encompassing of why people are okay. I hope you know that.
Thank you. I will accept that. I may not believe every ounce of that right this second, but I definitely will put it in my little heart cup and hold on to that. So thank you so much. And you need to know that the driving force, and sometimes we do things to a fault, but you know what? If you have the opportunity to be loved in my circle, like I want to love so hard, like my grandma did, I will go to the ends of the earth and nothing else matters.
And
So,
that's the freaking truth, man.
you, Haley, you were loved. You are loved. So, that's love. Hey, keep that in your cup
Oh, my
and put
cup
it
is
back
like,
in your
whoa, 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 whoa.
put
Whoa.
that in
I
your
am
14-year-old cup.
listen, that's a whole nother thing. My sweet inner child. I got some
Yes,
work to do with her for sure.
it's okay. We all do, if we're honest. Sometimes you sit in moments, but often you can get to the next moment. It's okay. And you have to know that even though there's a giant wall up, there's probably people waiting on the other side. You guys just have to collectively make a decision to get rid of that wall. But, I believe we're here for a reason. We're here to learn lessons and love people and help people along the way.
I really like our new motto, and by our, I mean I'm just adopting it. But your new motto of there are no rules. I think we've gotten so caught up in it needing to be a certain way or feeling a certain way or being perceived as a certain way or grieving a certain way or feeling a certain way or you have to forgive, you have to. No, I don't have to do anything. If I want to be sad, I'm going to be sad. If I want to not cry in front of people, I'm not going to cry in front of people because guess what? It doesn't matter about anybody else, it matters about me. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah,
we get so caught up in focusing on other people that we kind of lose ourselves. I think that this is a really good start. Unfortunately, but fortunately for anybody who's listening, there is so much more that we can go over and talk about, and we will go over and talk about for the sake of wanting to not have a 4-hour episode and being able to actually get into topics and whatnot in future episodes. I'm going to end this with my little question I'm going to ask everyone. Anything. It could be any loss that you've endured in your life. It could be anything from you accidentally stepped on a roly poly to Jason or Mark or Dad or some other people that we've lost in life. But if you could go back to 5 minutes before this loss entered your life, what would you tell your subconscious self? You can't change anything. You telling yourself whatever you tell yourself is not going to impact any sort of outcome. But what would you tell yourself so your soul knew in the moments to follow What would it need to hear?
Well, I'll just touch on Jason, not any of the other losses. For me, I think for him, and one moment that made it good, so I'm kind of cheating because I'm saying something else and then also answering your question, but I feel like I would remind myself, hey, a day and a half ago, you went to work, his work, you hugged him, you told him you loved him, you told him that you were proud of him, you were proud of the progress, you were excited, and remember that we just got family photos together because some shit's coming and it's going to suck more than you could ever imagine. With that being said, I hope I could hear myself and say, you're gonna be okay. Because guess what? I'm still here. I kind of made it, and in the meantime, while making it, I was able to help others and make a difference. So that's what I would do.
And that's amazing. And not only did you kind of make it, you made it not only through that, but so many other things just as difficult, just as heavy, just as earth shattering, groundbreaking, heartbreaking. You really have to give yourself some credit because you discount yourself a little and you're
I
worth
think as humans, we do.
so much more. I think it's people like you specifically because I know some people that are like, I'm the best thing that's ever walked this earth. And let me tell you, you are one of those people,
The only thing that holds up my halo are my horns.
which is
Just
so
kidding.
fitting.
I'm
So
so I'll talk.
fitting. No, I love it. I think it's perfect. And
Uh,
I, one, am so proud of you for being willing to do this. I know that these topics are
Thanks.
hard, and being vulnerable and being raw and being open and being willing to talk about how hard and it being okay and somebody just listening, like, yes, I totally interrupted and talked back, but you're my mom and we share these experiences, and Jason wasn't my son, so I will never understand what that felt like. But what I did understand is what it felt like to lose who he was as a person. And yeah, dad was my dad. Didn't know him since 15. Very different. Wasn't a husband, a love. He was my dad. And although I don't know what it's like to lose a love, I do know what it's like to lose him. Like I said earlier, you literally deserve the whole entire world. You really do. You've
Thank you. Thank you.
overcome and accomplished and battled and fought and broken down and have been tired, and you deserve to flourish. You really do. It's about damn and also a huge thank you to
Yes.
everybody willing to listen. These topics are not easy. And like I said in the trailer, it is one giant trigger warning. And if you're able to sit and listen and be a part of it, kudos to you. And if you ever need help or need to talk to anybody or be a part of something, I know for me, you're more than welcome to reach out. I have the Survived by Loss Instagram now. I have my personal Instagram that I am not afraid to share either. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I am working on a Facebook, hopefully for this specifically. I think it'd be really neat to have a some sort of Facebook community so that we can all connect and share stories or whatever that looks like. And then yeah, if any of you need anything ever, there's help. Obviously, the most common is the suicide crisis hotline. That's just 988. Super easy. Can't forget it. Cannot forget it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot, and it was nice to be vulnerable and open. It was quite a unique experience, and I appreciate that very much. You're beautiful.
Anytime. You're beautiful.
Thank you. You guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Take luck care.
You too.